Hello everyone, this is Jebro, and this is my Guardian DPS-ish build. It is DPS, it is really damage, but using Celestial Amulet, so it's got a little bit of tankiness, but not much, but still pulling off some nice survivability with some nice DPS, and I use this in solo queue mainly, not in team queue, so I have, but I have a lot of luck in solo queue. I don't know if it's the build or it's just luck or carriness, but this is a good build. It's a fun build. There's variations of this build out there. Someone will probably say people are already playing it, but I haven't looked at anyone's DPS build. I've just used this one. Obviously, I do know that most people go into Meditations for Guardian DPS builds because it makes sense. So I'm not going to go off that. And I'll probably be using a lot of the same traits, same weapons, not traits, sorry, same utilities, but there's different reasons for what I do the way I do it. So basically, one problem I do find is that DPS, high DPS Guardian is almost one trick pony. They do all their burst and then they're kind of useless for a little bit. But I feel like I'm doing quite some nice damage and also sometimes some supporty stuff, but not really. That's not really what the focus is of this build. So I will now go through the build. First of all, going through weapons, sigils, and also the rune and the amulet. So starting off with Sceptor, of course, we do have 3 abilities. So firing a slow moving orb at your foe is the first one. Smite is very good for AoE damage. Number of impacts 16, so there's quite a lot of damage coming in there. Range is quite big as well. And Chains of Light, which is very important. Obviously, it is an immobilize, which is good to either keep people off a cap, or if you're running around World v World, to just keep someone who's running away, or to just put them in place so they can't DPS, and you can maybe kite a little bit with the Scepter, of course. One of the things I do like about this combination with immobilize and also vulnerability, so I can put that Chains of Light on, and then I can go into my Greatsword and do my damage. That's why I use that. Ray of Judgment from the focus obviously is a blind with the regen as well, and also does a little bit of damage, and it does a lot of bounces as well, which is always very nice. So it does affect other people, it's not just one target. Cooldown's quite 25 seconds, not too bad. Shield of Wrath, of course, you know, blocks attacks, that's pretty good. Also very, very good for going for downs, of course, as well, which is very, very nice. So I don't need to use any stability or another Aegis or anything to actually go for downs. So that's very, very good. That's pretty much my main downing ability, really. Or if I'm in big trouble getting bursted, I will also pop that ability off. Going over to the other weapon, which is the Greatsword, of course. So on the third strike you do gain some might, which is also very, very nice. Of course it does do AoE cleave damage because it's, you know, one ability for a Greatsword. Whirling Wrath, one of my main AoE burst attacks, really, I guess you would say. It just a really, really good ability to have, and is one of my main ability. I'll go through the traits and I'll explain how I actually use these abilities in a row. Leap at foe. This causes blindness, so I'll always try and use this first, and if I can find a fire field or something like that, I'll try and leap through it as well. So any kind of field that I can use to leap through is always useful. Symbol of Wrath, now as you can see their vulnerability is also used for my symbols, which is in the top line in the traits, which I'll go through. So putting that down is really, really nice. So normally what I'll try and do, I'll try and get my blinds off of my other weapon set, then I'll burst into this, putting down Symbol of Wrath, then I'll try and get Blinding Blade on, pull them in, and then I'll use my Whirling Wrath as like a mini combo there, depending on whether or not how close my target is, or if I need to get any more blinds off, because blinds are really, really, really good in this build as well, and I'll show you that when we get to the traits. Heal, Shelter, of course, blocking attacks, and when you're kind of ish squishy in this build sometimes, that is very good to block those incoming attacks, of course. The Meditations, mainly, so they convert the conditions you are suffering into boons. So if I've got a lot of conditions on me, I will want to use that as much as possible. Smite Condition, Cure Condition, and damage nearby foes. Double damage if a condition is cured. So try and use that really more when you've got some conditions, so you can actually, you know, do more damage. Also, you can see the Fury there. That's another thing through the traits. So I gain Fury on all meditations. Judge's Intervention is very good. Obviously, you can see the healing there as well on all meditations. So all meditations are giving me healing and Fury as a basic, and then obviously the ability with it, which they actually do. So it does break stun, and it causes burning as well. And that burning is quite nice, quite high, almost 5 seconds there. And of course, renewed focus, which of course gives me invulnerability and does recharge all my virtues. Bang. There you go. Onto sigils. I want to try and get some dodge out of this because I need to dodge to gain survivability. So I've put 2 dodging, 2 energy sigils on. Whether or not you need both, I'm not 100% sure. You could get some more DPS out of this build from changing to a different sigil there, so that's an option. Sigil of Purity. Now when I go into, I'll put this on focus just because I feel like focus is almost, you know, it's part of my survivability. So I will do a 60% chance on hit to remove a condition. So that's almost like having Purity in one of the trait lines where you do have a condition removed every 10 seconds automatically, but this 60% chance on hit should work quite nicely. So that's almost like having that trait in your sigils, which is why I use that. Sigil of Battle on the Greatsword. There are many, many, many different options, but I do like to try and give myself some might. Now, I do get might, of course, from Virtue of Justice as well, and also the Sword 1 ability. So I'm getting a bit of might, so it boosts up my damage a bit, because I do lose a little bit, obviously, from using, as we will go on to now, the Celestial Amulet, which gives power, precision, toughness, vitality, ferocity, healing power, and condition damage. Condition damage I want because of the burning. Healing power I want because I want to try and scale up my healing on my meditations and my heal. Pardon me. Ferocity, obviously, power, precision, all the damage, toughness and vitality still really quite important. Vitality less so, but toughness, still need some toughness in this build. I don't like running full Zerka builds because I like to have some survivability, and I don't want to be a one-trick pony, basically. That's just not the way I play in my way. Rune of the Flame Legion is the rune I've gone for. That's for 25 power, the extra burning duration, and the extra power, the 25% chance to call burning for 1 second when hit. That's if I'm not, of course, you know, every couple of seconds I'll do some burning, so I'm still in a little bit, you know, I'm not 100% sure about this rune, but it's working for me at the moment. Also, 5th piece you get 100 armor, and 6th is quite important, so plus 20% to burning duration, and then an extra 7% damage against burning foes. So when people are burning, when people are on fire, I'm doing more damage, and I think you've seen this again with a couple of other builds I've done. I do quite like this rune. Going over to the traits, we can see 4, 2, 6, 1, 1. Now this is a very people use this in different ways. Now, I think Bullet Chainsaw goes for, doesn't take the honor one and puts it there. It's very, 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 very similar build to other guys, but this is the way I play it, and I wanted to explain it. Haven't really seen guides out there for this build, but this is the way I kind of play it and the way I've treated it. Maybe not exactly the same, but we'll go through it. So Zeal, we do see the minor trait, of course. Create a symbol of wrath when you're struck while below the health threshold. So symbol of wrath does give vulnerability, which is quite nice and quite important for this build. Retaliation, which is also good. Going over to Fiery Wrath, so increasing damage against burning foes. So that's quite important. As I said, the extra damage on top of the rune is going to be 17% with that on top, so that's an extra 17% against burning foes. Stick that up with the vulnerability and whatnot as well, and you're getting some nice stacking damage. Symbolic exposure, symbols apply vulnerability to foes. So as you can see, Symbol of Wrath will apply some vulnerability as well, which is why I want to try and get them in that as much as possible. Zealous Blade, attacks with your greatsword deal an extra 5% damage and heal you. The base heal on that is 35. If you think about how, if you get into a whirling attack or you're using the one skill, every time you hit you're going to get 35 healing. I know it's not a massive amount, but when you're actually in a fight, that stacks with like your passive healing is actually quite nice. It adds to it and it's very useful. Going over to Radiance, Justice is blind. When activated, Virtue of Justice, nearby foes are blinded. Blinds, as you can see in my next main trait, inflict vulnerability. So in combination with Virtue of Justice, also Leap of Faith, and of course Ray of Judgment, which causes blindness, all three of those will inflict vulnerability, and that is 3 stacks. So vulnerability really stacks up quite fast, and it's important that you use that if you're trying to take out people quite quickly, or you want to just focus a target. Try and build up the vulnerability for your team so that you can focus down that target quite quickly. Works quite well against the Necros. That one is kind of a pain in the ass. Right, so going down into Valor. So I've only got 2 into Radiance. Valorous Defense. So gain Aegis when you're struck below the health threshold, which is always quite nice. Don't really need to talk about that too much. Meditation Mastery is quite important. You are using 3 meditations, so having a lower cooldown on those is very good. Courageous Return. Virtue of Courage is recharged when you rally. I don't really need to say anything about that. You'll see it later. Well, that's quite good as well because I've got protection. So I'm going to be, if I need to get up again and I pop that up, I'll block an attack and I'll gain protection as well, which is pretty sweet. Focus Mind. Meditations grant Fury. So extra 20% critical chance for 4¼ seconds. Now queuing that up, I will sometimes go for Judge's Intervention. I will use Judge's Intervention with that, and I would first of all really to get my damage on in conjunction with the rest of the skills that I kind of mentioned before, getting the blinds on and then getting into my Greatsword, hopefully getting down Symbol of Wrath. And this is, you know, I would use this in the middle of a burst, you know, even if I'm right next to a target, I'll try and put it in there, try and make sure they're at least burning before I try and get more of my burst damage off on them. So this is a good combination with that, and also grants me some nice healing just in case in the middle of that kind of combination I can actually heal myself as well, which is pretty sweet, and do damage at the same time, which is a great thing about Guardian. Might of the Protector. Gain might when you block attacks. Another way of gaining some nice might there, of course, with Shelter and the Focus 5 skill. And going over to Monk's Focus. So using a meditation skill heals you, and that is where the healing power comes in. 2.154 is what I've got the healing at the moment. It does scale with healing power, which is quite good. Yay. Going over to Honor. Gain Vigor when you deliver a critical hit. Gaining Vigor is good because I can then dodge more and I can survive more. So that I always try and stick. I do try and stick that in builds, in Guardian builds, wherever I really can, because I like it. It's nice, and it gives me extra survivability, especially with just 1 point in the tree. And Inspired Virtue, another one which I love to have for Guardians. When I'm using my virtues, I'm going to be gaining those extra boons as well. So might on the first one, regen, then protection, and it's really, really good. So whenever I use Virtue of Justice, I get blind, burning, and also I get the might. When I'm using Virtue of Resolve, I get some healing, I get some regen, which is very sexy. And Virtue of Courage will be giving me Aegis and protection. That's Aegis for everyone, by the way. So guys, I will be using I'll do a gameplay video, and I'll try to explain as much as possible my meanings of life while I'm going through the actual game itself, as I normally do post gameplay for each build. But thank you very much. That's pretty much the explanation I will do for now. Rather than going through combinations, I will try and get a team queue up as soon as possible, and I will link it in this description as well, but I will put the build first. You can go and play it your way, and then you can see how I play it. But it is a very solid build. It's a fun build to play. I'm not sure it's the best build to play in team setups. People do, but really you want a thief or something in there instead of a Guardian if you haven't got a thief. But this is a very nice build to play. It's fun, solo queue, it really does do the job, especially Spirit Watch is really nice as well with that focus. Of course you will be using Focus 5 to grab that orb, which is always a nice thing to do. And you can also, you know, you can kill people on the way, you really can. I get really angry when I'm playing I get angry. I get I get sad and emotional when I'm playing a Shout Guardian or a Bunker and stuff, and I'm just thinking, Jesus, I'm just running around. I can tank this to the point, but this is so boring. Sometimes I just want to play a DPS character for a bit, you know, and I'll play Guardian. I'll be like, okay, cool, I can do a bit of both. I can survive, and I can actually do some damage. And it's good damage. So, guys, thank you very much, and I will see you very soon.